The mind is everything. What you think, you become. That is not philosophy. That is law. Your external life is not random. It is not accidental. It is not unfair by coincidence. It is constructed, layer by layer, thought by thought, decision by decision. Your mind is the architect. Your habits are the builders. Your results are the structure. Most people never understand this. They live as reactors. They wake up and respond. They feel and obey. They think and believe every thought is true. They blame circumstances. They blame timing. They blame other people. All while their own thinking quietly builds the life they claim they do not want. Weak minds drift. Strong minds design. A weak mindset waits for motivation. A strong mindset operates on command. A weak mindset negotiates with excuses. A strong mindset enforces standards. A weak mindset asks, "Why is this happening to me?" A strong mindset asks, "How am I creating this, and how do I change it?" Most people are not defeated by the world. They are defeated by their own unexamined thinking. They allow fear to speak unchecked. They allow doubt to repeat. They allow distraction to dominate. And repetition becomes identity. What you repeat, you become. If you repeatedly think you are behind, you behave behind. If you repeatedly think you are incapable, you act incapable. If you repeatedly think small, you build small. Thought patterns solidify into beliefs. Beliefs shape decisions. Decisions create outcomes. And outcomes reinforce the original belief. That loop is either your prison or your power. Right now, your life reflects your dominant thoughts. Not your occasional motivation. Not your temporary discipline. Your dominant thoughts. The mental patterns you rehearse daily. The internal dialogue you tolerate. The identity you silently accept. This audiobook is not entertainment. It is conditioning. It will not comfort you. It will confront you. You will learn how your mind has been shaping your reality without your awareness. You will identify the hidden programming running your life. You will dismantle limiting beliefs and replace them with disciplined thinking. You will learn to control your emotional state. You will train your focus. You will rewire your subconscious through repetition and intensity. You will stop chasing goals and start becoming the person who achieves them naturally. This is not about temporary inspiration. This is about permanent identity shift. Mental strength is not a personality trait. It is a trained standard. Discipline is not something you feel. It is something you enforce. Focus is not luck. It is control. Resilience is not genetic. It is built. And everything begins in the mind. If you master your thinking, you master your behavior. If you master your behavior, you master your results. If you master your results, you master your life. Over the next chapters, you will not be given comfort. You will be given responsibility. You will not be told to hope. You will be told to decide. You will not be asked to wish. You will be required to think differently, consistently, and deliberately. Because what you think, you become. And from this moment forward, you stop thinking like the person you were. You begin thinking like the person you are becoming. If this message resonates with you, if you are ready to build mental strength instead of waiting for motivation, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and commit to finishing every chapter. Now prepare yourself. Chapter 1. Own the reality you are creating. Your mind is creating your reality whether you are aware of it or not. That is the principle. Every thought you tolerate becomes a direction. Every emotion you rehearse becomes a pattern. Every repeated pattern becomes a result. Your external world is a delayed reflection of your internal world. Not occasionally. Always. Two people can stand in the same situation and walk away with completely different outcomes. One sees limitation. The other sees opportunity. One feels threatened. The other feels challenged. One waits. The other acts. The environment is the same. The difference is mental interpretation. Weak thinkers believe circumstances create outcomes. Strong thinkers understand interpretation creates outcomes. Most people never question their thoughts. They assume their internal dialogue is truth. They wake up anxious and call it reality. They feel doubt and call it evidence. They experience discomfort and call it a sign to stop. That is unconscious living. Unconscious thinking is dangerous because it feels normal. It feels automatic. It feels justified. But automatic thinking produces automatic results. And automatic results are average at best, destructive at worst. If you do not choose your thoughts, your environment will choose them for you. News, conversations, social media, complaints, fear, comparison. All of it feeds your mind. And whatever feeds your mind shapes your perception. Perception shapes emotion. Emotion shapes behavior. Behavior shapes life. That chain never breaks. Thought, emotion, action, result. If your results are weak, trace them back. The behavior came from emotion. The emotion came from thought. The thought was repeated. The repetition made it dominant. And your dominant thoughts are building your current reality. That is not motivational language. That is structural truth. Most people focus on changing outcomes. They try to fix results without correcting thinking. They attempt new strategies while holding old beliefs. They want new lives with the same mindset. That will never work. You cannot think like a victim and live like a leader. You cannot think small and build big. You cannot constantly expect failure and consistently produce success. Your mind must align with the reality you want to create. Right now, pause internally. Observe your dominant thoughts. Not your occasional positive statements. Your dominant thoughts. The ones you repeat daily. The ones that show up under pressure. The ones that surface when you fail. The ones that appear when you are alone. Those thoughts are shaping your life. If your internal language says, "This is too hard," your body slows down. If it says, "I always mess this up," your focus weakens. If it says, "I am behind," your urgency becomes panic instead of precision. Unexamined thoughts become self-fulfilling patterns. Weak individuals let thoughts control them. Strong individuals control their thoughts. The difference is awareness. You are not required to believe every thought that appears in your mind. Thoughts are suggestions, not commands. But if you never question them, they become authority. And authority shapes action. If you believe opportunities are scarce, you hesitate. If you believe people are against you, you withdraw. If you believe growth is painful and unsafe, you avoid expansion. The belief directs behavior before you consciously decide. That is why awareness is power. You must observe your thinking as if you are auditing it. You must challenge it. You must interrupt patterns that weaken you. Not once. Repeatedly. Daily. That is discipline. Most people wake up and immediately surrender to whatever mood they feel. Disciplined individuals do not surrender. They assess. They redirect. They command. You do not wait to feel confident. You think confident thoughts. You do not wait to feel capable. You think capable thoughts. You do not wait to feel strong. You think strong thoughts. Emotion follows thought. And behavior follows emotion. If you want to change your life, you do not start with external noise. You start with internal control. You choose what you allow to repeat inside your mind. You choose what narratives survive. You choose what interpretations dominate. That choice, repeated daily, reshapes reality. Weak minds say, "This is just how I am." Strong minds say, "This is what I am building." That is the difference. If you continue thinking the same thoughts, you will continue producing the same results. If you tolerate mental chaos, you will live chaotic outcomes. If you allow negative interpretations to dominate, you will experience negative cycles. And weakness compounds. One negative thought becomes 10. 10 become a belief. A belief becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. But strength compounds too. One empowered thought becomes deliberate action. Deliberate action becomes consistent behavior. Consistent behavior becomes reputation. Reputation becomes results. Results reinforce identity. You decide which compound effect you build. From this moment forward, you do not drift mentally. You observe. You evaluate. You choose. When a thought weakens you, you reject it. When a thought strengthens you, you reinforce it. You train your mind the way disciplined individuals train their body. Repetition. Standards. Control. That is how reality shifts. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the producer of your interpretations. And interpretations create experience. Own that truth. Own your thinking. Own your emotional reactions. Own your responses. Own your results. Because your life today is a reflection of your dominant thoughts. Change the thoughts. Change the direction. Change the life. That is what strong people do. And from this chapter forward, that is what you do. Chapter 2. Expose the program running your life. You are living from programming you did not consciously choose. That is the truth. Before you developed awareness, you absorbed instructions. You absorbed emotional patterns. You absorbed reactions. You absorbed limitations. Repetition shaped your mind long before you questioned it. And what was repeated became normal. What was normal became belief. What became belief became identity. Most people are not living intentionally. They are living automatically. They wake up with the same assumptions. They react with the same emotional habits. They speak with the same internal tone. They pursue the same level of comfort. They defend the same limitations. And they call it personality. It is not personality. It is programming. Weak minds never examine their conditioning. They say, "This is just how I am." Strong minds challenge everything. They ask, "Who installed this belief? Why do I accept it? Does it serve the future I am building?" There are thoughts in your mind that are not truly yours. They were inherited, repeated, modeled, imitated, reinforced. You absorb them through repetition, authority, culture, fear, approval, and survival. Ideas about money. Ideas about success. Ideas about relationships. Ideas about what is possible for you. And because you heard them early, you believe them deeply. If you were repeatedly exposed to scarcity, you may think abundance is unrealistic. If you were repeatedly criticized, you may believe you are inadequate. If you were repeatedly told to play small, you may feel uncomfortable thinking big. If you were rewarded for staying safe, you may fear risk without understanding why. That is programming. Most people never interrupt it. They operate on autopilot. They repeat what they saw. They defend what they absorbed. They protect the identity they were handed. And then they complain about the results. Weakness compounds silently. When you live unconsciously, your decisions are not chosen. They are triggered. You react instead of respond. You repeat instead of redesign. You drift instead of direct. Years pass. Nothing changes. The same emotional loops. The same financial ceiling. The same relationship patterns. The same internal doubts. Not because you are incapable. Because you are conditioned. If you do not take control of your internal programming, it will control you. And it will do so quietly. The danger is not obvious failure. The danger is comfortable stagnation. Living at 70% of your potential and calling it enough. Silencing ambition because it feels unfamiliar. Shrinking your standards to match your comfort zone. That is how dreams die. Not from catastrophe. From repetition. You must interrupt the loop. Start by observing your thoughts without defending them. When a limiting idea appears, do not justify it. Question it. When fear speaks, do not obey it automatically. Examine it. When self-doubt surfaces, do not merge with it. Separate from it. You are not your conditioning. You are the observer of it. Discipline begins with awareness. Each day, notice patterns. Notice emotional triggers. Notice automatic responses. Notice the phrases you repeat internally. Notice what you assume about yourself without evidence. Then challenge it. Replace "this is just who I am" with "this is what I practiced." Replace "I can't" with "I haven't trained for it yet." Replace "people like me don't succeed" with "that belief is outdated." Repetition built the old programming. Repetition will build the new one. You must consciously install new standards. Speak differently to yourself. Think beyond inherited limitations. Expose yourself to environments that stretch your expectations. Raise your internal standard daily. Not occasionally. Daily. Autopilot creates average. Intentional thinking creates growth. That is the difference. Weak individuals protect their old identity because it feels familiar. Strong individuals dismantle identities that no longer serve their future. Weak individuals say change is hard. Strong individuals understand that staying the same is harder. Because the cost of unconscious living is regret. Years of unused potential. Years of quiet frustration. Years of wondering what could have been. That ends when you decide to reprogram. You do not wait for inspiration. You enforce new thoughts. You repeat empowering beliefs. You design your internal narrative. You build a new self-image through deliberate mental rehearsal. You become intentional. That is what disciplined people do. They audit their mind. They remove what weakens them. They install what strengthens them. They refuse to let childhood patterns dictate adult outcomes. That becomes who you are. A person who thinks consciously, a person who chooses beliefs, a person who designs identity. You are not trapped by your past conditioning. You are limited only by the beliefs you refuse to question. And from this moment forward, you question everything that keeps you small. Interrupt the autopilot. Rewrite the code. Install strength. Take control of the program. Chapter 3. Build your belief system with intention. Your beliefs control your behavior. Not your goals. Not your intentions. Not your temporary bursts of motivation. Your beliefs. Every action you take is an expression of what you believe is true about yourself and the world. If you believe you are capable, you act boldly. If you believe you are limited, you hesitate. If you believe success is available to you, you pursue it. If you believe it is reserved for others, you withdraw. Behavior follows belief. Always. Most people never question their beliefs. They inherit them. They absorb them. They repeat them. They accept them as facts. They think their thoughts are reality instead of recognizing that repeated thoughts created those beliefs in the first place. A thought repeated becomes a belief. A belief reinforced becomes identity. An identity defended becomes destiny. Weak individuals allow repetition to happen accidentally. They replay fear. They replay doubt. They replay failure. They rehearse embarrassment. They relive rejection. And through repetition, they transform those experiences into identity. I am not good at this. I am always behind. I am not confident. I am unlucky. They say it enough times, and the mind accepts it as truth. Strong individuals understand repetition is power. They do not allow random thoughts to become permanent beliefs. They choose which thoughts deserve repetition. They consciously install empowering beliefs. They guard what they internalize. That is the difference. If you believe you are disciplined, you behave with discipline. If you believe you are resilient, you endure pressure differently. If you believe you are a leader, your posture changes. Your voice changes. Your decisions change. Identity-based habits are automatic. They do not require negotiation. A person who sees themselves as strong does not debate whether to push forward. They push forward because that is who they are. Most people try to change behavior without changing belief. They attempt to force habits that contradict their identity. It never lasts. A person who believes they are inconsistent cannot sustain consistency. A person who believes they are not good with money cannot maintain wealth. A person who believes they are not confident cannot hold authority. You cannot outperform your identity for long. If your internal belief system says you are small, you will shrink under pressure. If it says you are powerful, you will expand under pressure. Weak belief systems create fragile behavior. One setback collapses effort. One criticism erases momentum. One mistake confirms self-doubt. And over time, weakness compounds. Small limiting beliefs produce small decisions. Small decisions produce small outcomes. Small outcomes reinforce small identity. The cycle tightens. The ceiling lowers. The life shrinks. This is not fate. This is belief repetition. Now understand this clearly. Beliefs are built. They are not discovered. They are not fixed. They are installed through repetition and emotional intensity. You installed your current belief system, even if you did not realize it, through repeated thinking, Through repeated interpretation. Through repeated self-talk. That means you can rebuild it. The disciplined approach is simple. First, identify the belief driving your behavior. If you procrastinate, you likely believe pressure is required for performance. If you avoid risk, you likely believe failure defines you. If you avoid visibility, you likely believe judgment determines your worth. Expose the belief. Second, choose the belief that serves your future identity, not the belief that reflects your past. The belief that aligns with the person you are becoming. I am disciplined. I execute consistently. I handle pressure. I learn fast. I finish what I start. Third, repeat it deliberately. Not casually. Not occasionally. Daily. Under pressure. In action. Reinforce it with behavior. When you act in alignment with the new belief, you strengthen it. When you repeat it internally, you install it deeper. Repetition builds conviction. This is not delusion. It is construction. You are constructing identity. Brick by brick. Thought by thought. Decision by decision. Weak people say, that's just how I am. Strong people say, that's who I am choosing to become. That is ownership. When you say, I am disciplined, and then you wake up and execute, you reinforce that belief. When you say, I am focused, and then you remove distractions, you reinforce that belief. When you say, I am resilient, and then you continue under discomfort, you reinforce that belief. Identity strengthens through aligned action. You do not wait to feel confident. You act confident. You do not wait to feel disciplined. You behave disciplined. Emotion follows belief. Behavior follows belief. Results follow belief. Change the belief. Behavior adjusts. Outcomes shift. That's the mechanism. Stop arguing for your limitations. Stop defending your weaknesses. Stop repeating the identity that keeps you average. Install a new standard. You are not your past repetition. You are your current decision. If you choose to believe you are powerful, you begin acting powerful. If you choose to believe you are capable of growth, you begin stretching. If you choose to believe you are consistent, you begin finishing. And as behavior aligns, identity solidifies. That becomes who you are. Winners do not rely on willpower. They rely on belief systems that make winning natural. Strong individuals do not fight themselves daily. They operate from identity. Their behavior is congruent with who they believe they are. That is how stability is built. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your identity. Raise your identity. Reconstruct your belief system with intention. Repeat empowering truths. Act in alignment with them. Reinforce them daily. Protect them aggressively. Because when belief shifts, everything shifts. Build beliefs that serve power. Build beliefs that serve growth. Build beliefs that serve discipline. That is how winners think. And that is who you are becoming. Chapter 4. Control your focus. Control your destiny. Your focus determines your direction. Whatever you consistently think about grows in your awareness. Whatever you repeatedly focus on expands in your experience. Your mind magnifies what it observes. It strengthens what it repeats. It builds around what it expects. Focus is not passive. It is creative. Most people scatter their attention without realizing the cost. They focus on problems and wonder why stress multiplies. They focus on what they lack and feel scarcity grow. They focus on other people's success and feel their own inadequacy deepen. Their mind becomes trained to search for evidence that confirms limitation. And the mind always finds what it is trained to find. Undisciplined individuals allow their attention to be stolen. By notifications. By comparison. By fear. By noise. They wake up and immediately consume. They scroll before they think. They react before they choose. Their focus is reactive, not deliberate. Disciplined individuals guard their attention like a weapon. They understand that focus is power. They decide what deserves their mental energy. They train their mind to search for opportunity instead of threat. They direct attention toward growth instead of distraction. That is the difference. Your brain filters reality. It cannot process everything. so it prioritizes what it believes matters. If you repeatedly think about failure, your mind searches for risks. If you repeatedly think about progress, your mind searches for solutions. If you obsess over obstacles, you will see obstacles everywhere. If you focus on possibilities, you begin to see pathways that others ignore. What you focus on becomes visible. What becomes visible becomes actionable. What becomes actionable becomes real. If you do not control your focus, you will live in reaction. And reaction is weakness. Reaction is surrender. Reaction is allowing the external world to dictate your internal state. Weak focus produces weak results. When your attention jumps from one thing to another, your energy fragments. When your energy fragments, your progress slows. When your progress slows, frustration grows. And frustration reinforces the belief that success is difficult. But success is not complicated. It requires sustained attention. Deep focus creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence strengthens identity. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior produces results. It begins with focus. Look at how most people handle challenges. They focus on the pain. They replay the mistake. They relive the embarrassment. They magnify the fear. And by magnifying it, they intensify it. The emotional weight grows because attention feeds it. Attention is fuel. If you feed fear, fear grows. If you feed doubt, doubt expands. If you feed discipline, discipline strengthens. If you feed vision, vision sharpens. Your mind does not judge what you focus on. It amplifies it. This is why two people can face the same situation and experience completely different outcomes. One focuses on the setback. The other focuses on the lesson. One focuses on loss. The other focuses on growth. One sees proof of limitation. The other sees proof of capacity. The situation is neutral. Focus assigns meaning. If you continue focusing on what is wrong, you will build a life defined by what is wrong. If you continue focusing on what is missing, you will feel perpetually behind. If you continue focusing on what others think, you will never think clearly for yourself. And over time, that scattered focus becomes identity. You become distracted. You become reactive. You become inconsistent. That is how weakness compounds. Every day you allow your focus to drift, you strengthen the habit of mental instability. Every time you indulge distraction, you train your mind to avoid depth. Every time you chase stimulation instead of substance, you reduce your capacity for sustained effort. And without sustained effort, there is no mastery. The disciplined mind trains focus intentionally. You begin by controlling your mornings. Before the world speaks to you, you decide what deserves your attention. You define your priorities in writing. You choose one meaningful task and give it uninterrupted concentration. No switching. No scrolling. No excuses. You train yourself to finish what you start. When your mind wanders, you bring it back. Not emotionally. Not dramatically. Calmly. Firmly. You return to the task. Again and again. That repetition builds mental strength. You limit unnecessary inputs. You reduce noise. You become selective about what enters your mind. Conversations, media, environments, you guard them. Because what enters your awareness competes for your focus. Strong people protect their attention. Throughout the day, you check your mental direction. You ask yourself, what am I focusing on right now? Is this building me or draining me? Is this productive or reactive? And if it is misaligned, you redirect. Immediately. No negotiation. That's what strong people do. They understand that focus is not about intensity for 1 hour. It is about consistency across the day. It is about returning, again and again, to what matters. It is about building the muscle of concentration until it becomes natural. That becomes who you are. You are no longer the person who is easily distracted. You are no longer the person controlled by notifications. You are no longer the person who loses momentum because of minor interruptions. You become deliberate. Where focus goes, power flows. When you focus on improvement, improvement accelerates. When you focus on discipline, discipline strengthens. When you focus on long-term vision, short-term discomfort loses control over you. That's how winners think. They do not focus on how hard something feels. They focus on who they are becoming through it. They do not focus on what they cannot control. They focus on what they can execute today. They do not obsess over opinions. They obsess over standards. That's the difference. Your life will move in the direction of your strongest attention. If your attention is scattered, your results will be scattered. If your attention is disciplined, your results will be structured. If your attention is intentional, your life becomes intentional. Control your focus. Control your direction. Control your destiny. From this moment forward, you do not allow your mind to wander without awareness. You do not surrender your attention cheaply. You do not build a life of distraction. You decide what matters. You focus on it. You return to it. You finish it. That is power. And you build it daily. Chapter 5. Control the voice within. The voice in your head is shaping your destiny. Every action you take is preceded by internal dialogue. Every hesitation is justified by a sentence you silently repeat. Every bold move is supported by a belief spoken inside your own mind. Before the world sees your confidence or your fear, your internal voice has already decided which one will dominate. That voice is either your greatest ally or your greatest enemy. Most people are controlled by it. They do not question it. They do not discipline it. They do not filter it. They hear a thought and assume it is truth. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. This will probably fail. And because they repeat it, they believe it. Because they believe it, they act accordingly. Weak individuals let their thoughts speak without supervision. They allow negative loops to run unchecked. They entertain doubt as if it is wisdom. They rehearse worst-case scenarios until fear feels rational. They insult themselves internally and wonder why their confidence collapses externally. Strong individuals do the opposite. They monitor the voice. They interrupt it. They correct it. They do not allow destructive thoughts to repeat without challenge. They do not romanticize insecurity. They do not rehearse failure. They choose their internal language carefully. Your self-talk is programming. Every repeated phrase is instruction. If you constantly say, I can't handle pressure, your nervous system obeys. If you constantly say, I always mess things up, your behavior aligns with that identity. The brain does not argue with repetition. It accepts it. And repetition becomes character. If you do not control your internal dialogue, you will sabotage yourself in moments that require strength. You will hesitate when action is necessary. You will shrink when expansion is required. You will retreat when growth demands discomfort. Negative self-talk compounds quietly. It lowers your standards slowly. It erodes your discipline gradually. It convinces you to quit just one more time. And one more time becomes a pattern. And that pattern becomes who you are. That is the cost of an undisciplined mind. But you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. You are the authority over your thoughts. You are the gatekeeper. The first standard is awareness. You must hear what you are saying to yourself. You must catch the tone. You must notice the patterns. The voice that says, this is too hard. The voice that says, people will judge me. The voice that says, I'll start tomorrow. Hear it clearly. Then correct it immediately. You do not negotiate with weakness. You replace it. When the mind says, I'm tired, you respond, I finish what I start. When the mind says, this is uncomfortable, you respond, growth lives here. When the mind says, what if I fail? You respond, I execute regardless. This is not blind positivity. This is disciplined language. This is mental command. Successful individuals speak to themselves with strength. Not emotion. Not ego. Strength. Their internal tone is direct. Controlled. Certain. They do not flatter themselves. They instruct themselves. Your inner voice should sound like a leader. Calm. Firm. Unapologetic. You must rewrite your mental script. Do not wait for thoughts to improve on their own. They will not. The default setting of the human mind drifts toward fear and doubt. If you do not deliberately replace those patterns, they will repeat automatically. Set daily internal standards. Speak power into your decisions. Speak certainty into your actions. Speak responsibility into your challenges. If you make a mistake, the weak mind says, I knew I wasn't capable. The strong mind says, adjust, improve, execute again. If you face rejection, the weak mind says, this proves I'm not good enough. The strong mind says, this is feedback. Continue. That's the difference. The voice in your head determines how long you stay down after a setback. It determines whether you interpret difficulty as danger or development. It determines whether pressure becomes panic or performance. And here is the truth. You are training that voice every single day. If you complain internally, you are training weakness. If you criticize yourself destructively, you are training insecurity. If you repeat empowering standards, you are training resilience. Repetition builds authority. Say it again and again. I do hard things. I control my reactions. I finish. I execute. Not casually. Not softly. With conviction. With expectation. Eventually, that becomes your baseline. This is not about pretending to feel strong. It is about deciding to think strong. Feelings follow commands. Behavior follows identity. Guard your mental language like your life depends on it. Because it does. Do not allow gossip in your own mind. Do not allow insults directed at yourself. Do not allow hopelessness to sit comfortably in your thoughts. Interrupt it. Replace it. Reinforce strength. Every time you correct your internal dialogue, you build authority over yourself. Every time you refuse to entertain self-sabotage, you strengthen your discipline. Every time you speak to yourself like a leader, you become one. That's what strong people do. They do not let their minds run wild. They do not tolerate internal disrespect. They do not rehearse weakness. They train the voice within until it becomes an asset. And once your inner voice becomes disciplined, your actions follow. Your posture changes. Your decisions sharpen. Your standards rise. You stop hesitating. You stop shrinking. You stop apologizing for ambition. Because the loudest voice in your life is no longer fear. It is command. Master your self-talk, and you master your life. Control the internal narrative, and you control the direction. Replace weakness with instruction. Replace doubt with discipline. Replace hesitation with execution. From this moment forward, your internal voice works for you. It speaks strength. It enforces standards. It demands action. That is who you are becoming. Control the voice within, or it will control you. Chapter 6. Control your emotional state. Your emotional state determines your decisions. Every action you take is filtered through how you feel in the moment. If you feel strong, you act boldly. If you feel uncertain, you hesitate. If you feel overwhelmed, you avoid. If you feel confident, you execute. Thought creates emotion. Emotion drives action. Action creates results. That sequence is constant. Most people believe their emotions are reactions to life. They say, this situation made me angry. They say, that pressure made me anxious. They say, this setback made me doubt myself. They treat emotions as external events. Disciplined individuals understand something different. They know emotions are interpretations. Two people face the same pressure. One grows sharper. The other collapses. The pressure is identical. The emotional meaning is different. Weak minds are emotional reactors. Strong minds are emotional regulators. A reactive person waits to feel ready. A disciplined person generates readiness. A reactive person avoids discomfort. A disciplined person expects it. A reactive person allows fear to dictate behavior. A disciplined person acts despite fear. That is the difference. If you do not control your emotional state will control you. And uncontrolled emotion compounds weakness. Fear repeated becomes avoidance. Avoidance repeated becomes stagnation. Stagnation repeated becomes regret. Anger repeated becomes conflict. Conflict repeated becomes isolation. Isolation repeated becomes resentment. Anxiety repeated becomes hesitation. Hesitation repeated becomes missed opportunity. Missed opportunity repeated becomes mediocrity. Emotional weakness compounds quietly. day after day, decision after decision. You must understand this clearly. Emotions are powerful, but they are not commands. They are signals. Signals can be observed. Signals can be redirected. You are not required to obey every feeling. State management begins with awareness. When you feel tension rising, you do not collapse into it. You identify it. You label it. You say internally, this is fear. You say, this is doubt. You say, this is frustration. Naming creates distance. Distance creates control. Next, you shift physiology. Your body and mind are connected. Slow your breathing. Straighten your posture. Relax your jaw. Lift your chest. Controlled breathing calms the nervous system. Upright posture signals strength. Physical control leads mental control. Then you shift focus. Fear grows when attention narrows on threat. Confidence grows when attention shifts to action. Ask yourself, what is the next decisive step? Not the entire plan. Not the final outcome. The next step. Strong people move while others freeze. You also build emotional strength in advance. You do not wait for pressure to train composure. You deliberately place yourself in controlled discomfort. You take on tasks that stretch you. You practice discipline when you do not feel like it. You finish what you start. You maintain standards when no one is watching. This builds emotional endurance. When discomfort becomes familiar, it becomes manageable. When it becomes manageable, it becomes fuel. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act while fear exists. Discipline is not the absence of emotion. It is the refusal to be ruled by it. That's what strong people do. They feel pressure and proceed. They feel doubt and execute. They feel uncertainty and decide anyway. They do not wait for perfect emotion. They manufacture productive emotion. You must create emotional triggers that serve you. Before entering a challenging situation, you breathe deeply and remind yourself of your standard. Before starting difficult work, you eliminate distraction and commit to a defined period of focus. Before reacting to conflict, you pause and slow your response. Pause. Breathe. Decide. Those 3 words separate strength from weakness. Pause interrupts impulse. Breathe restores control. Decide reasserts authority. Authority over your own internal state. Over time, this repetition changes identity. You stop seeing yourself as an anxious person. You stop seeing yourself as short-tempered. You stop seeing yourself as easily overwhelmed. You begin seeing yourself as controlled, centered, stable. That becomes who you are. Your emotional baseline rises. What once shook you no longer does. What once intimidated you now sharpens you. What once caused retreat now triggers action. That is growth. Emotional strength is not loud. It is steady. It is quiet under pressure. It is composed when others panic. It is deliberate when others rush. Where others react, you respond. Where others complain, you execute. Where others collapse, you stabilize. That's how winners think. Remember this clearly: emotions are temporary. Identity is permanent. If you consistently act from strength, even when you feel weak, you rewire your emotional patterns. Action teaches the brain what is safe. Repetition teaches the nervous system what is normal. Make discipline your normal. You do not eliminate fear. You outgrow it. You do not suppress emotion. You direct it. You do not seek comfort. You build capacity. And capacity compounds. Each controlled response strengthens you. Each composed decision builds stability. Each disciplined action under pressure reinforces identity. Control your state. Control your decisions. Control your direction. Because the person who governs their emotions governs their future. From this moment forward, you do not say, I feel like it. You say, I decide. You are not controlled by emotion. You are the controller. And that is non-negotiable. Chapter 7. Rehearse victory before it happens. The mind moves first. The body follows. Every action you take is preceded by a mental image. Before you speak, you picture. Before you move, you imagine. Before you attempt, you anticipate. Your brain is constantly rehearsing outcomes, whether you are aware of it or not. The question is not whether you visualize. The question is what you are visualizing. Most people rehearse failure without realizing it. They imagine rejection. They picture embarrassment. They anticipate mistakes. They see themselves falling short. And then they step into the moment already defeated. Their body follows the script their mind has written. Weak minds visualize fear. Disciplined minds visualize execution. When you repeatedly imagine losing, your nervous system prepares to lose. Your posture shifts. Your tone weakens. Your energy drops. You hesitate. You overthink. You pull back. And the result confirms the image you rehearsed. That cycle continues until it becomes identity. But when you deliberately rehearse success, something changes. Your brain does not fully distinguish between vividly imagined experience and real experience. When you see yourself executing with clarity, your body begins to align with that image. Confidence increases. Movements sharpen. Decisions accelerate. You become what you repeatedly picture. Most people leave this process to chance. They allow random thoughts to dominate their mental screen. They consume chaotic media. They replay past failures. They dwell on mistakes. Their imagination becomes polluted. And then they wonder why their confidence collapses under pressure. Untrained imagination is dangerous. If you do not control the images in your mind, your fears will. Disciplined individuals use visualization intentionally. They rehearse performance before stepping into pressure. They see the conversation unfolding smoothly. They see themselves calm under stress. They see the workout completed. They see the business meeting handled with authority. They see discipline executed before the day begins. They do not wait for reality to shape their mind. They use the mind to shape reality. If you fail to train this skill, you will continue reacting emotionally to circumstances. Fear will feel real because you rehearsed it. Doubt will feel justified because you repeated it. Hesitation will feel natural because you practiced it internally. Weak rehearsal creates weak execution. And weakness compounds. One moment of hesitation becomes a pattern. One avoided challenge becomes a habit. One imagined failure becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Over time, you begin to believe that you are simply not capable. But the truth is harsher. You practiced being incapable. Now you will practice something else. You will deliberately rehearse strength. Each morning before the world speaks to you, you will close your eyes and construct the day. You will see yourself acting with discipline. You will see yourself responding with calm authority. You will see yourself finishing what you start. You will see yourself choosing focus over distraction. You will not fantasize about results. You will rehearse behavior. See the alarm ring and watch yourself rise immediately. See the discomfort and watch yourself move through it. See the pressure and watch yourself remain steady. Make the images detailed. Make them controlled. Make them intentional. Then repeat them. Repetition builds familiarity. Familiarity builds confidence. Confidence builds action. That is the sequence. When pressure arrives, it will not feel foreign. Your mind has already been there. Your body will follow the blueprint you created. That's what strong people do. They prepare internally before they perform externally. Visualization is not wishful thinking. It is mental conditioning. It is rehearsal. It is training without physical movement. It is building neural familiarity with success. And there is another level. You must visualize not only actions, but identity. See yourself as disciplined. See yourself as focused. See yourself as decisive. Not occasionally. Consistently. See yourself carrying standards higher than your current behavior. Because behavior follows identity. If you continue to picture yourself as inconsistent, you will remain inconsistent. If you see yourself as someone who quits, you will quit. But when you repeatedly embody the image of a disciplined individual, your subconscious begins to accept it. You start acting in alignment with the image. That becomes who you are. Most people wait until they achieve results to believe in themselves. Disciplined individuals reverse the order. They believe first. They rehearse first. They embody first. Results follow. That's how winners think. They see the version of themselves they are building before anyone else does. They walk like it. They speak like it. They decide like it. Long before the world recognizes it. This is not delusion. It is direction. Your imagination is a tool. Use it deliberately. Guard it from negativity. Refuse to replay failure unless extracting a lesson. Replace mental movies of fear with images of composure. Replace hesitation with decisive execution. You control the screen. Short rehearsal. Daily repetition. Emotional intensity. Feel the confidence in the visualization. Feel the calm. Feel the strength. Emotion locks the image into your nervous system. Flat imagination creates weak impact. Intense, controlled rehearsal creates transformation. Do it daily. Not once. Not when you feel like it. Daily. That is how identity shifts. You do not wait to feel ready. You train readiness. You do not wait for confidence. You build familiarity. You do not wait for opportunity. You prepare internally so that when it appears, you are already aligned. Weak minds react to moments. Strong minds prepare for them. See it clearly. Rehearse it repeatedly. Execute it decisively. That becomes who you are. From this point forward, your imagination works for you, not against you. You rehearse victory before it happens. You step into pressure already trained. You act with the certainty of someone who has been there before. Because mentally, you have. Control the image. Control the rehearsal. Control the outcome. Rehearse strength until it feels natural. Then live it. Chapter 8. Break your mental ceiling. Your limits are learned. And what is learned can be unlearned. There is nothing natural about most of the ceilings in your life. They were installed. Repeated. Reinforced. Conditioned. You were told what was realistic. You were shown what was possible. You were surrounded by certain standards. And slowly, without resistance, you accepted invisible boundaries. Most people never question their mental ceiling. They measure themselves against their environment instead of against their potential. They shrink their ambition to match their comfort. They call limitation being practical. They call fear being realistic. They call doubt being responsible. Weak minds protect comfort. Strong minds challenge it. A weak thinker avoids discomfort. Avoids judgment. Avoids risk. Avoids expansion. They stay where it feels safe. They repeat what feels familiar. They choose predictable outcomes over uncertain growth. They would rather be comfortable and stagnant than challenged and evolving. A disciplined thinker does the opposite. They seek edges. They lean into discomfort. They question inherited beliefs. They confront fears directly. They refuse to let old programming dictate new possibilities. That's the difference. Limiting beliefs do not shout. They whisper. They say you are not ready. They say you need more time. They say people like you do not succeed at that level. They say money is difficult. They say success changes people. They say visibility invites criticism. They say failure will expose you. And if you repeat those whispers long enough, they become identity. Then behavior follows. If you believe money is scarce, you hesitate to pursue it. If you believe success brings judgment, you self-sabotage. If you believe you are behind, you move cautiously. If you believe you are incapable, you never fully commit. Belief shapes action. Action shapes results. Results reinforce belief. That loop either imprisons you or elevates you. If you refuse to break your mental ceiling, here is what happens. Your comfort zone becomes your cage. Your potential remains theoretical. Your ambition slowly weakens. You begin to rationalize average results. You tell yourself you are content when you are actually afraid. And over time, fear disguised as logic becomes your lifestyle. That is how people shrink without noticing. Expansion requires courage. Not emotional courage. Mental courage. The courage to think bigger before you see evidence. The courage to believe differently before validation. The courage to act while uncertain. Strong people expand their mental comfort zone deliberately. You do not wait to feel confident. You create confidence through exposure. You do not wait to feel ready. You build readiness through repetition. You do not wait for permission. You decide you belong in bigger rooms. Start with your language. Eliminate phrases that shrink you. Stop saying, I can't. Replace it with, I am learning. Stop saying, that's not for me. Replace it with, I am building toward that. Stop saying, people like me don't. Replace it with, why not me? Language directs belief. Belief directs behavior. Then expand through controlled discomfort. Do one action daily that stretches your identity. Speak up. Take initiative. Increase standards. Raise expectations. Increase the level of responsibility you accept. Expansion is not reckless. It is deliberate pressure. You grow by stepping slightly beyond your current identity and holding that position until it feels normal. That's how ceilings break. You also guard against comparison. Comparison shrinks vision. It makes you measure progress against others instead of against your own potential. A strong mind competes with its former self. A weak mind competes with its environment. Stay focused on expansion. Fear of failure must be confronted. Failure is not identity. It is feedback. It is correction. It is refinement. Only the ego interprets it as personal inadequacy. Discipline interprets it as instruction. Fear of judgment must be neutralized. People judge regardless. Staying small does not protect you. It only guarantees regret. If you are going to be judged for growing. The courage to think bigger is not arrogance. It is responsibility. You are not designed to operate beneath your capacity. You are not built for mental confinement. Every time you accept a smaller version of yourself, you weaken your standards. And weakness compounds. The longer you tolerate limitation, the stronger it becomes. The longer you avoid expansion, the more foreign it feels. The more foreign it feels, the more you resist it. Break the cycle. Expose yourself to bigger ideas daily. Surround yourself with conversations that elevate. Increase the level of goals you consider normal. Normalize ambition. Normalize discipline. Normalize high standards. Repetition builds belief. Tell yourself repeatedly, I expand. I grow. I rise. I increase. I elevate. I am not confined by past thinking. I am not defined by old fear. I am not limited by inherited belief. Say it until it feels natural. Say it until it becomes identity. Strong people outgrow environments. Weak people adapt downward to them. You decide which path you follow. There is a version of you that thinks bigger, moves bolder, speaks stronger, acts decisively. That version is not fantasy. It is blocked by outdated mental programming. Remove the program. The potential emerges. Do not wait for comfort. Do not wait for approval. Do not wait for certainty. Growth does not require comfort. It requires commitment. You commit to thinking bigger. You commit to acting beyond fear. You commit to expanding your standards. That is how ceilings shatter. And once you break one, you never shrink back to fit beneath it again. From this moment forward, you refuse inherited limits. You refuse small thinking. You refuse to live beneath your capability. You expand. Because your limits are learned. And you are done learning small. Chapter 9. Control your mind or be controlled by it. Your mind is not you. It is a tool. And if you do not discipline it, it will discipline you. Thoughts appear constantly. Some are useful. Most are noise. Weak individuals believe every thought that crosses their awareness. Strong individuals evaluate, filter, and command their thoughts. That is the separation. That is the line. You are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. You are the one choosing which ones stay and which ones leave. Most people wake up and immediately surrender to mental chaos. They check their phone. They consume other people's opinions. They allow fear, comparison, doubt, and distraction to flood their mind before they have even stood up. They let external noise dictate internal direction. Disciplined individuals do the opposite. They wake up and establish control immediately. They do not negotiate with their thoughts. They do not entertain weakness. They decide what deserves attention. They decide what does not. That decision changes everything. When you believe every negative thought, it becomes emotion. When it becomes emotion, it becomes action. When it becomes action, it becomes habit. When it becomes habit, it becomes identity. A single undisciplined thought may seem harmless. It is not harmless. It compounds. I'm tired. I'll do it later. It's too hard. What if I fail? They are better than me. Every time you accept one of these thoughts without challenge, you strengthen weakness. You reinforce hesitation. You program surrender. Weakness compounds quietly. It does not explode overnight. It spreads slowly. It becomes your standard. And standards define destiny. Strong individuals interrupt destructive thoughts immediately. They do not allow mental drift. When a limiting thought appears, they confront it. I'm tired. No. You act anyway. I'll do it later. No. You move now. It's too hard. Good. Hard builds strength. What if I fail? Then you learn. They are better than me. Then you improve. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every emotion deserves your obedience. Your mind will test you daily. It will offer comfort. It will suggest delay. It will justify inaction. It will magnify fear. It will replay past mistakes. It will imagine worst-case scenarios. That is what an undisciplined mind does. Your job is not to eliminate thoughts. Your job is to command them. Awareness is the first weapon. You must observe your thinking without attachment. Notice the impulse. Notice the doubt. Notice the insecurity. But do not immediately identify with it. You are not the fear. You are observing the fear. You are not the doubt. You are observing the doubt. You are not the anger. You are observing the anger. That separation creates power. The moment you can say, "This is a weak thought," you create space. And inside that space is choice. Choice is control. Without awareness, you react. With awareness, you decide. Most people live reactively. Something happens. They feel emotion. They act impulsively. They regret it later. Then they repeat the cycle. Disciplined individuals slow the internal reaction. They pause. They breathe. They evaluate. Then they respond intentionally. That pause is strength. Mental discipline is built through small daily standards. You begin by setting non-negotiable thinking rules. You do not speak negatively about yourself. You do not mentally rehearse failure. You do not exaggerate obstacles. You do not replay insults. You do not compare your beginning to someone else's middle. You do not entertain quitting unless the task is complete. When a negative loop starts, you interrupt it immediately. Replace it with a directive. Focus. Execute. Stay calm. Keep moving. Handle it. Short commands. Clear commands. Decisive commands. You train your mind like a soldier. It follows orders. Guarding your mental environment is equally critical. Your mind absorbs what you expose it to repeatedly. If you constantly consume negativity, outrage, drama, and distraction, your thoughts will reflect that environment. Weak input produces weak thinking. Strong individuals protect their mental space. They are selective about what they watch. Selective about what they listen to. Selective about who they allow to influence them. Because they understand something most people ignore, exposure becomes identity. If you surround yourself with excuses, you will think in excuses. If you surround yourself with discipline, you will think in discipline. Guard your inputs. Guard your attention. Guard your focus. Thought control is not about suppressing emotion. It is about directing energy. When anger appears, you channel it into action. When fear appears, you convert it into preparation. When doubt appears, you answer it with execution. You build this skill through repetition. Every day, thoughts will attempt to weaken you. Every day you will respond with command. Every day, you reinforce authority over your own mind. That repetition becomes strength. That strength becomes stability. That stability becomes identity. Eventually, something changes. You stop being surprised by difficulty. You stop being shaken by pressure. You stop being controlled by emotion. You become steady. You become deliberate. You become disciplined. That's what strong people do. They do not eliminate negative thoughts. They dominate them. They do not chase comfort. They chase control. They do not ask, "How do I feel?" They ask, "What must be done?" That becomes who you are. A person who decides, a person who commands, a person who does not negotiate with weakness. Control your mind, or it will control you. There is no neutral ground. From this moment forward, you treat every thought as a candidate. Some are accepted. Most are rejected. Only disciplined thinking is allowed to stay. That is the difference. That is strength. Take command now. Chapter 10. Reprogram your subconscious or remain a prisoner of it. Your subconscious mind obeys repetition. It does not argue. It does not analyze. It accepts what you consistently feed it and turns it into reality. This is the engine beneath your behavior. Conscious effort is temporary. Subconscious programming is permanent. You can force yourself to act for a short time, but if your deeper identity contradicts your actions, you will eventually revert. That is why most people start strong and finish weak. They try to change behavior without changing programming. The subconscious stores patterns. It stores emotional associations. It stores identity statements repeated over time. Every time you say, "This is just who I am," you are writing code. Every time you rehearse a fear-filled outcome, you are writing code. Every time you emotionally attach to failure, you are writing code. And the subconscious executes that code without question. Weak individuals allow accidental programming. They repeat self-doubt. They replay past embarrassment. They emotionally amplify setbacks. They expose themselves to negative environments daily. Then they wonder why confidence feels unnatural. Strong individuals program themselves deliberately. They understand that repetition plus emotion equals conditioning. If you repeat a thought with emotional intensity, the subconscious accepts it as truth. Not because it is true, because it is repeated. This is why complaining becomes a personality. This is why confidence becomes natural. This is why fear becomes automatic. The subconscious does not distinguish between constructive repetition and destructive repetition. It only responds to frequency and emotional charge. So you must take control of both. Most people repeat weakness. Strong individuals repeat strength. Most people emotionally rehearse disaster. Strong individuals emotionally rehearse victory. If you constantly imagine failure, your body prepares for failure. Your posture changes. Your tone weakens. Your hesitation increases. Your decisions shrink. If you constantly imagine execution, your body aligns with execution. Your breathing stabilizes. Your voice strengthens. Your movements become deliberate. The body follows the subconscious script. Reprogramming begins with intentional repetition. You choose identity statements, not surface-level affirmations. Identity commands. I execute regardless of mood. I remain calm under pressure. I finish what I start. I operate with discipline. I control my reactions. You repeat them daily, not casually, with conviction, with focus, with emotional certainty. Empty words do nothing. Emotion imprints. You do not whisper identity. You declare it internally with authority. Then you align behavior with it immediately. If you say, "I finish what I start," you finish small tasks the same day. If you say, "I remain calm," you control your breathing when triggered. If you say, "I operate with discipline," you act on schedule even when you feel resistance. Repetition through words. Reinforcement through action. That combination rewires you. Weak individuals wait to feel different before acting differently. Strong individuals act differently until they feel different. You must understand this clearly. The subconscious changes through consistency, not intensity. One powerful day does nothing. 1 disciplined week is not enough. 1 burst of motivation does not rewire identity. Repetition builds authority. Daily exposure to strength. Daily correction of weakness. Daily reinforcement of identity. Environment also programs the subconscious. If you surround yourself with distraction, your mind learns distraction. If you surround yourself with urgency and execution, your mind adapts to urgency and execution. You cannot constantly consume chaos and expect internal calm. You cannot absorb mediocrity and expect excellence. Your environment is writing code in the background. Strong individuals design their environment intentionally. They reduce noise. They reduce access to distraction. They remove triggers that activate weakness. They increase exposure to discipline. They increase exposure to high standards. Because they understand something critical, identity is shaped by repetition of experience. If you experience daily discipline, discipline becomes normal. If you experience daily delay, delay becomes normal. You decide what becomes normal. Rewiring requires patience. But patience does not mean softness. It means consistency without negotiation. Every time the old pattern appears, you interrupt it. Old thought, this is uncomfortable. New command, growth requires discomfort. Old impulse, avoid this. New command, move toward it. Old reaction, frustration. New reaction, control. At first, it feels forced. That is expected. The old program resists replacement. But repetition weakens the old pattern and strengthens the new one. Eventually, the shift becomes automatic. You begin to respond differently without effort. You begin to execute without internal debate. You begin to remain steady under pressure. That is reprogramming. Most people underestimate the power of daily identity rehearsal. They repeat weakness unconsciously for years. Then they attempt strength for a few days and expect transformation. Transformation requires sustained input. You are not trying to feel motivated. You are installing a new operating system. You do not need complex systems. You do not need endless techniques. You need repetition. You need emotional conviction. You need behavioral alignment. That's it. Repetition. Emotion. Action. Repeat the identity. Feel the identity. Act as the identity. Again. 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 That becomes who you are. You stop forcing discipline because discipline becomes your default. You stop fighting distraction because focus becomes natural. You stop collapsing under pressure because calm becomes standard. That's what strong people do. They program themselves deliberately. They do not allow accidental identity. They do not allow emotional chaos to shape them. They build themselves through repetition. And they understand something most never realize. If you do not program your subconscious intentionally, the world will program it for you. Choose your programming. Install strength. Repeat it daily. Reinforce it through action. Until it is no longer something you practice. Until it is simply who you are. Reprogram now. Chapter 11. Become who you intend to be. You do not achieve success by chasing outcomes. You achieve success by becoming the type of person who produces those outcomes. Results are not the starting point. Identity is. Most people are obsessed with goals. They set targets. They visualize outcomes. They measure progress. But they remain the same person internally. They want new results with an old identity. That contradiction keeps them stuck. A weak mindset asks, how do I get it? A strong mindset asks, who must I become? That is the shift. If you want discipline, become a disciplined person. If you want strength, become a strong person. If you want focus, become someone who protects focus. If you want respect, become respectable. You do not wait for evidence. You decide first. Most people wait to feel confident before acting confident. They wait to see progress before committing fully. They wait for permission. They wait for validation. They wait for certainty. Strong individuals reverse that order. They act as if first. They embody first. They decide first. And reality follows. Acting as if is not pretending. It is alignment. It is choosing behaviors that match the identity you are building, regardless of your current circumstances. If you intend to become disciplined, you wake up on time even when no one is watching. If you intend to become focused, you remove distractions even when it is inconvenient. If you intend to become resilient, you handle pressure without complaint. You behave like the future version of yourself before the world recognizes it. That is power. Weak individuals allow their current environment to define their identity. They say, this is just who I am. They label themselves based on past behavior. They use history as justification. Strong individuals understand something critical. Identity is constructed, not discovered. You build it through repeated action. Every action casts a vote for the person you are becoming. Skip the work. Vote for weakness. Stay consistent. Vote for strength. React emotionally. Vote for instability. Respond deliberately. Vote for control. One action may seem small. It is not small. It is reinforcement. Repetition builds reputation within yourself. And your internal reputation determines your confidence. If you repeatedly break promises to yourself, you begin to distrust yourself. Your word becomes meaningless internally. Your standards weaken. Your belief in yourself erodes. If you repeatedly keep promises to yourself, even small ones, you build internal respect. You become reliable to yourself. Your standards strengthen. Your belief solidifies. Confidence is not built by praise. It is built by proof. Proof of discipline. Proof of follow-through. Proof of consistency. That is why results follow identity. When your behavior matches your declared standards daily, results become a byproduct. Future self-embodiment is a daily practice. Ask yourself, how does the strongest version of me think? How does that version speak? How does that version handle pressure? How does that version use time? Then act accordingly. Not when it is easy, especially when it is difficult. Most people negotiate with discomfort. They say, I'll do it tomorrow. They delay. They rationalize. They soften their standards. Strong individuals treat standards as non-negotiable. If the standard is to train, you train. The standard is to focus, you focus. The standard is to execute, you execute. No emotional debate. That becomes who you are. Identity alignment requires daily correction. You will slip. You will feel resistance. You will face internal friction. When that happens, you do not collapse into guilt. You recalibrate immediately. Weak individuals spiral after mistakes. They miss one day and quit entirely. They interpret one failure as proof of inadequacy. Strong individuals treat mistakes as feedback. They adjust and continue. They do not attach identity to temporary lapses. They protect momentum. Because they understand that consistency over time reshapes identity completely. You must raise your internal standards above your current habits. Stop identifying as someone who tries. Stop identifying as someone who struggles. Stop identifying as someone who hopes. Identify as someone who executes. Identify as someone who endures. Identify as someone who improves daily. Language shapes identity. Identity shapes behavior. When you say, I am disciplined, you create expectation. When you say, I am focused, you create standard. When you say, I am responsible, you eliminate excuses. This is not affirmation without action. This is declaration supported by behavior. You say it. You act it. You repeat it. Repetition creates certainty. At first, it feels forced. At first, it feels unnatural. That is because you are shedding an old identity. Growth always feels unfamiliar before it feels natural. Stay with it. There will be resistance. There will be doubt. There will be moments when your old habits attempt to reclaim control. That is normal. But remember this, the old identity survives only if you keep feeding it. Starve it. Feed the new standard instead. Choose discipline when you want comfort. Choose focus when you want distraction. Choose execution when you want delay. Every time you do, the new identity strengthens. Eventually, something shifts. You no longer force discipline. It becomes automatic. You no longer force focus. It becomes default. You no longer force resilience. It becomes instinct. That is when transformation is complete. You are no longer chasing goals. You are the person who naturally achieves them. That's what strong people do. They do not wait to become ready. They decide who they are. They act accordingly. They repeat it daily. That's how winners think. They understand that identity precedes achievement. From this moment forward, stop asking what you want to have. Ask who you must become. Then build that person deliberately. Build that person daily. Build that person relentlessly. Become who you intend to be. Chapter 12. Turn pain into power. Pain is not your enemy. It is your raw material. Every person experiences pressure. Every person faces loss, rejection, delay, and disappointment. The difference is not in the presence of pain. The difference is in the response to it. Weak individuals interpret pain as a stop sign. Strong individuals interpret pain as a signal. Most people ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Disciplined individuals ask, "How do I use this?" That shift changes everything. Pain exposes your standards. When discomfort arrives, it reveals who you really are. It reveals whether you are ruled by emotion or guided by principle. It reveals whether you collapse under pressure or rise because of it. Avoided pain compounds into weakness. Faced pain compounds into strength. When you avoid discomfort, you train your mind to escape. You lower your tolerance. You become fragile. Small problems feel overwhelming. Minor setbacks feel catastrophic. Your world shrinks. When you confront discomfort deliberately, you expand your capacity. You become stable under stress. You become calm in chaos. You become reliable when pressure increases. That is not accidental. That is trained. Most people spend their lives trying to eliminate discomfort. They chase ease. They structure their days around convenience. They avoid hard conversations. They postpone difficult tasks. They silence internal discomfort with distraction. But comfort is expensive. It costs resilience. It costs growth. It costs character. Every time you run from pain, you confirm weakness. Pain is a teacher. But only if you listen correctly. Reframing adversity is a discipline. It is not optimism. It is strategy. When something difficult happens, you do not dramatize it. You do not exaggerate it. You do not make it personal. You analyze it. What can this build? What skill does this require? What weakness does this expose? What standard must now rise? That is how winners think. Suffering without structure creates bitterness. Suffering with structure creates strength. You must decide that every hardship will be converted into capacity. Lost an opportunity? Build preparation. Faced rejection? Build skill. Encountered failure? Build precision. Experienced betrayal? Build discernment. Endured delay? Build patience. Nothing is wasted unless you waste it. Weak individuals attach identity to pain. They say, "This happened to me." They carry it. They relive it. They define themselves by it. Strong individuals extract lessons and discard the rest. They refuse to let pain become personality. You are not your worst day. You are not your past mistakes. You are not your setbacks. You are the response. Mental resilience is built by controlled exposure to discomfort. You do not wait for life to test you. You train daily. You finish what you start even when motivation fades. You stay calm when others react emotionally. You maintain discipline when results are invisible. You continue effort when recognition is absent. That is controlled adversity. That builds internal armor. Resilience is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is quiet stability. When pressure increases, weak individuals panic. Their emotions spike. Their decisions become reactive. They seek reassurance. They search for escape. Disciplined individuals slow down. They breathe. They think. They execute. They understand that emotion under pressure is natural. But expression is optional. Control under pressure is trained long before the pressure arrives. You must build psychological strength deliberately. You build it by keeping promises to yourself. You build it by maintaining standards when no one is watching. You build it by choosing responsibility instead of blame. You build it by refusing to indulge in self-pity. Self-pity is seductive. It feels justified. It feels understandable. But it weakens you. The moment you begin asking for sympathy instead of solutions, you surrender power. Strong individuals do not deny difficulty. They confront it directly. They feel the weight, but they do not collapse beneath it. Perspective is power. A challenge is either an obstacle or an opportunity. That classification is your decision. The same event can break one person and build another. The event is neutral. The interpretation determines the outcome. If you label adversity as unfair, You shrink. If you label adversity as training, you grow. That becomes the difference. You must develop the habit of asking stronger questions in difficult moments. Not why is this happening? But what is this teaching? Not how long will this last? But how do I become stronger because of this? Not who is to blame. But what is my responsibility? Responsibility restores control. Blame removes it. Resilience is identity-based. It is not something you turn on occasionally. It becomes who you are. You become the person who remains steady. You become the person who does not overreact. You become the person who sees pressure as preparation. You become the person who refuses to break. That is what strong people do. They convert pain into power. They convert pressure into discipline. They convert adversity into advantage. That repetition builds confidence. Not surface confidence. Earned confidence. You know you can handle difficulty because you have handled it before. You know you can endure pressure because you trained for it. You know you will not collapse because collapse is no longer your standard. That becomes your identity. You are not fragile. You are not reactive. You are not defeated by difficulty. You are strengthened by it. Every challenge from this point forward is fuel. Every hardship is training. Every moment of discomfort is an opportunity to increase your threshold. Increase your threshold. Increase your capacity. Increase your standard. Strong minds turn obstacles into advantages. That is not theory. That is discipline. From this moment forward, pain is no longer something you avoid. It is something you utilize. You do not complain about pressure. You become powerful because of it. You are not here to live comfortably. You are here to become formidable. Stand firm. Convert pain. Grow stronger. Chapter 13. Eliminate distraction and command your focus. Focus is power. Where your attention goes, your life follows. Scattered attention creates scattered results. Controlled attention creates momentum, precision, and dominance. Most people live distracted. Their minds jump from one stimulus to another. Notifications, messages, opinions, noise. They are constantly reacting, rarely deciding. They confuse activity with progress. They mistake stimulation for achievement. They move constantly, but they build nothing. Disciplined individuals understand something most people never learn. Attention is a weapon, and it must be aimed. The mind cannot produce excellence in fragments. It requires depth. It requires immersion. It requires sustained concentration. Weak individuals check their phone in the middle of important work. Strong individuals finish the work before they check anything. Weak individuals multitask. Strong individuals single-task with intensity. Weak individuals chase dopamine. Strong individuals chase mastery. Distraction feels good in the moment. It gives quick relief. It offers temporary stimulation. But it destroys long-term growth. It trains your brain to crave novelty instead of depth. Every time you interrupt your focus, you weaken your mental endurance. Every time you abandon a task halfway, you reinforce inconsistency. Every time you choose convenience over concentration, you lower your standard. And lowered standards compound. The distracted mind becomes restless. The restless mind becomes impatient. The impatient mind becomes undisciplined. Then goals remain unfinished. Projects remain incomplete. Potential remains unrealized. Focus is not natural. It is trained. You do not wait to feel focused. You decide to focus. You create controlled environments. You remove what interferes. You eliminate unnecessary noise. You set time boundaries and you protect them with intensity. When it is time to work, you work. When it is time to think, you think. When it is time to execute, you execute. No divided attention, no half-effort, no drifting. Most people cannot sit alone with a single task for an extended period. Their mind seeks stimulation. It demands variety. It looks for escape. Disciplined individuals resist that urge. They sit. They concentrate. They push through the discomfort of mental resistance. Because they understand this truth, depth builds power. Superficial effort produces superficial results. Deep work produces transformation. Your focus determines your speed of growth. If your attention is scattered across 10 directions, progress slows. If your attention is concentrated in one direction, progress accelerates. You must train your mind to stay. Stay with the task. Stay with the process. Stay when it becomes difficult. Stay when it becomes boring. Stay when it becomes uncomfortable. Most people quit mentally long before they quit physically. Their body is present. Their mind has already left. That is weakness. Strong individuals remain mentally present under pressure. They lock in. They narrow their attention. They remove everything that does not serve the mission. This requires standards. You set daily focus blocks. During those blocks, you allow nothing to interrupt you. No notifications. No scrolling. No switching tasks. You finish what you start. You condition your brain to associate time blocks with execution. Over time, concentration becomes easier. Not because it is effortless, but because it is practiced. Repetition builds mental stamina. Every focused session strengthens your cognitive endurance. Every completed task reinforces identity. Every uninterrupted hour builds discipline. You begin to notice something. Your thoughts become clearer. Your decisions become sharper. Your execution becomes faster. Because you are no longer dividing your power. Attention is energy. And energy divided weakens impact. Energy concentrated amplifies results. Weak individuals ask, "How do I stay motivated?" Strong individuals ask, "How do I remove distraction?" Motivation fluctuates. Standards do not. If your environment is chaotic, your mind will be chaotic. You must design conditions that support depth. Clear workspace. Clear schedule. Clear objective. You decide what matters. Then you give it undivided attention. Focus also requires emotional discipline. When frustration arises, you do not escape into distraction. When boredom appears, you do not seek entertainment. You remain. You train yourself to tolerate stillness. You train yourself to endure mental resistance. You train yourself to finish. Finishing is power. Incomplete effort builds self-doubt. Completed effort builds confidence. When you consistently complete what you start, your self-trust increases. And self-trust fuels bigger commitments. That is how momentum builds. Small focus. Small win. Repeat. Then larger focus. Larger win. Repeat. Over time, your identity shifts. You are no longer someone who tries. You are someone who executes. That's what strong people do. They protect their attention like a resource. They treat focus as sacred. They do not allow distraction to steal their future. That becomes who you are. A person who locks in, a person who finishes, a person who values depth over noise. Where focus goes, power flows. From this moment forward, you eliminate unnecessary distraction. You reduce stimulation. You concentrate on what matters most. One task, one mission, one direction. You do not drift. You command your focus. And your focus commands your results. Chapter 14. Design your mental environment. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. If you rely on motivation while surrounding yourself with distraction, weakness will win. If you attempt discipline while immersing yourself in noise, chaos will win. Environment always reinforces identity. Always. Most people underestimate this. They believe success is built purely on internal strength. They ignore the fact that their daily surroundings are shaping their thoughts, influencing their emotions, and programming their standards. Weak individuals live in reactive environments. Their phones control their attention. Their conversations revolve around gossip, complaints, and excuses. Their digital feeds are filled with comparison, outrage, and entertainment without purpose. They consume without filtering. They scroll without thinking. They listen without questioning. Then they wonder why their focus is fractured. Disciplined individuals design their environment intentionally. They remove friction from productive behavior. They increase friction around distraction. They choose inputs that reinforce growth. They construct surroundings that demand strength. That is the difference. If your environment promotes comfort, you will become comfortable. If your environment promotes discipline, you will become disciplined. What you repeatedly see becomes normal. What becomes normal becomes accepted. What becomes accepted becomes who you are. Most people allow randomness to dictate their exposure. They wake up and immediately consume news, social media, opinions, noise. They let external voices shape internal beliefs before they have even established their own. This is surrender. When you do not control your inputs, you cannot control your outputs. Every conversation you entertain either raises your standard or lowers it. Every piece of content you consume either sharpens your focus or weakens it. Every environment you remain in either strengthens your discipline or erodes it. Weakness compounds silently through exposure. Spend enough time around excuses, and you begin to justify your own. Spend enough time around mediocrity, and excellence starts to feel extreme. Spend enough time around distraction, and deep focus feels uncomfortable. That is how identity shifts downward. But the reverse is also true. Spend enough time around driven individuals, and your ambition rises. Spend enough time around disciplined conversation, and your standards increase. Spend enough time in focused environments, and distraction begins to irritate you. Environment shapes default behavior. Default behavior shapes results. Results reinforce identity. If you are serious about mental strength, you must audit your environment without emotion. No attachment. No justification. Just clarity. Ask yourself direct questions. What do you consume daily? What do you listen to repeatedly? Who do you speak with most often? What topics dominate your conversations? What physical spaces do you spend the most time in? Do they demand focus or invite distraction? Most people avoid these questions because the answers require change. Change is uncomfortable. Remaining weak is more costly. You do not need complex systems. You need standards. Remove digital clutter. Unfollow accounts that trigger comparison or negativity. Silence notifications that fracture attention. Create spaces where your phone is not within reach during work. That is control. Choose conversations that build perspective, not drama. Limit exposure to constant complaining. Refuse to engage in discussions that normalize weakness. That is protection. Organize your physical space. A chaotic environment invites chaotic thinking. A structured environment reinforces clarity. That is alignment. Your surroundings should remind you of who you are becoming, not who you used to be. Place reminders of your standards where you see them daily. Keep your tools prepared. Reduce barriers between intention and execution. Make discipline easier to act on than distraction. Strong individuals understand friction. They increase friction around bad habits. They reduce friction around good habits. They do not depend on emotional strength. They engineer consistency. Most people say they want focus, yet they keep temptation within arm's reach. They say they want growth, yet they remain in environments that reward comfort. They say they want discipline, yet they structure their life for ease. That contradiction produces stagnation. Your environment must match your ambition. If your goal is mental toughness, your environment must challenge you. If your goal is focus, your environment must minimize noise. If your goal is growth, your environment must expose you to higher standards. This requires courage. You may outgrow certain conversations. You may distance yourself from certain influences. You may restructure your daily routine in ways that others do not understand. That is necessary. You are not here to blend in. You are here to build. Weak individuals protect comfort. Strong individuals protect standards. You do not need everyone's approval. You need alignment between your environment and your identity. Guard your mornings. The first hour of your day sets the tone for your thinking. Do not allow external noise to dominate that space. Establish direction before exposure. Guard your evenings. The final thoughts before sleep settle into your subconscious. Do not end your day with chaos. End it with clarity. Guard your physical surroundings. Clean space. Order. Structure. Minimal distraction. Guard your digital exposure. Selective input. Intentional consumption. No mental pollution. This is not extreme. This is disciplined. Over time, your environment will begin to work for you instead of against you. Focus will require less force. Discipline will feel more natural. Growth will accelerate because friction has been removed from the right behaviors. That is the power of design. You do not rise above your environment by accident. You redesign it deliberately. That is what strong people do. They do not complain about distractions. They eliminate them. They do not blame negative influence. They distance from it. They do not depend on motivation. They construct systems that demand execution. That becomes who you are. A person who chooses exposure carefully, person who protects mental space, person who engineers strength. Your environment is either training you for excellence or conditioning you for mediocrity. Decide which one you will tolerate. Design your surroundings with precision. Remove what weakens you. Strengthen what builds you. Align your space with your standards. And let your environment reinforce the person you are determined to become. Control the environment. Control the mind. Control the life. Chapter 15. Become the architect of your mind. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the architect of your mind. And your mind builds your life. This is the final line. This is the separation point. This is where responsibility becomes identity. Most people spend their lives reacting. Reacting to conditions. Reacting to emotions. Reacting to other people's behavior. They blame the economy. They blame their upbringing. They blame their environment. They blame timing. They blame luck. Blame is surrender. Blame gives your power away. Strong individuals operate differently. They accept total responsibility for their internal world. Not partial responsibility. Not convenient responsibility. Total responsibility. They understand a truth that most avoid. You may not control every event, but you control your response. You control your interpretation. You control your effort. You control your standards. And those controls shape everything. Weak individuals wait to feel motivated. Strong individuals act regardless of feeling. Weak individuals search for comfort. Strong individuals build capacity. Weak individuals demand guarantees. Strong individuals demand growth. That is the difference. If you do not take ownership of your mind, someone else will influence it. If you do not set your standards, the world will set them for you. If you do not define who you are becoming, circumstances will define it for you. You are either deliberate or drifting. There is no middle state. Mastery begins with a decision. A firm internal declaration. I am responsible. I am in control. I decide who I become. Not once. Daily. Responsibility is not heavy. It is empowering. It removes excuses. It eliminates negotiation. It simplifies everything. When something goes wrong, you do not collapse. You assess. You adjust. You execute again. When progress is slow, you do not complain. You improve your effort. When pressure increases, you do not panic. You stabilize your thinking. This is mental adulthood. This is strength. Daily mental rituals reinforce this identity. Not complex systems. Not elaborate routines. Standards. You begin each day with intention. Before the world speaks to you, you speak to yourself. You remind yourself who you are building. Disciplined. Focused. Controlled. Relentless. You review your priorities. You execute what matters first. You do not let distraction outrank purpose. Throughout the day, you monitor your state. When irritation rises, you regulate it. When fatigue whispers, you move anyway. When doubt appears, you answer with action. At night, you evaluate honestly. No excuses. No exaggeration. Did you meet your standard? If yes, reinforce it. If no, correct it tomorrow. Consistency builds identity. Identity builds destiny. Most people seek intensity. They push hard for a week. Then they disappear. Then they restart. Then they disappear again. That cycle builds frustration. Strong individuals build consistency. Small actions. Daily repetition. Quiet discipline. They understand that transformation is not dramatic. It is deliberate. Repetition builds mastery. Mastery builds confidence. Confidence builds certainty. Certainty builds authority. Eventually, Your mind stops resisting discipline. It expects it. You no longer argue with yourself about working out. You no longer debate whether to focus. You no longer negotiate with distraction. You simply execute. That becomes who you are. This is the mindset of mastery. Not emotional. Not impulsive. Not dependent on validation. Internal standards over external applause. You do not require recognition to continue. You do not require praise to maintain effort. You do not require perfect conditions to move forward. You operate from identity. You have trained your thoughts. You have disciplined your emotions. You have strengthened your focus. You have raised your standards. Now you protect them. The world will test you. Pressure will return. Discomfort will return. Obstacles will return. But you are no longer fragile. You have built mental structure. You know how to pause before reacting. You know how to interrupt weakness. You know how to replace doubt with execution. You know how to operate without motivation. That is power. The person who controls their mind cannot be easily shaken. They may bend, but they do not break. They may adjust, but they do not abandon their standards. They do not collapse under criticism. They do not inflate under praise. They remain steady. Steady is powerful. At this level, success is not an event. It is a byproduct. It follows identity. It follows standards. It follows repetition. You stop chasing results. You focus on becoming the type of person results chase. That is the shift. You are no longer trying to win occasionally. You are building a mind that wins consistently. Every day is training. Every challenge is resistance. Every discomfort is strengthening. And you embrace it. Because you understand something most never realize. The mind you build determines the life you live. Not circumstances. Not luck. Not talent. Your mind. From this point forward, there is no returning to unconscious living. No drifting. No passive existence. You think intentionally. You act deliberately. You respond strategically. You evaluate honestly. You improve continuously. That becomes your baseline. That becomes your standard. That becomes you. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are the architect of your mind. And when you master your mind, you master your life. Stand firm. Think strong. Execute daily. Become unshakable. This is not the end. This is the beginning of a different standard. You have not just listened to words. You have confronted your patterns. You have examined your weakness. You have been challenged to raise your internal bar. Now the only question that remains is simple. Who are you going to be when this audio ends? Because information changes nothing. Identity changes everything. You now understand that your thoughts shape your emotions. Your emotions influence your actions. Your actions build your habits. Your habits construct your identity. And your identity determines your future. That chain never breaks. The world will not slow down for you. Distractions will not disappear. Pressure will not reduce itself. Comfort will still call your name. Doubt will still whisper. Fear will still attempt to negotiate. But you are not the same person who started this audiobook. You are aware now. You recognize weak thinking when it appears. You recognize emotional drift. You recognize excuses forming before they leave your mouth. And awareness creates control. From this point forward, you do not drift. You decide. You do not wait. You execute. You do not react emotionally. You respond intentionally. That is the shift. Do not treat this as motivation. Motivation fades. Treat this as a commitment to internal standards. Standards do not depend on mood. Standards do not depend on circumstances. Standards define behavior regardless of how you feel. You are building a mind that does not collapse under pressure. You are building discipline that does not require applause. You are building focus that does not depend on perfect conditions. That is mastery. And mastery is not loud. It is consistent. Every morning you wake up and recommit. Every challenge you face and regulate your response. Every setback you analyze instead of dramatize. Every win you accept without arrogance. Steady. Controlled. Deliberate. The person who masters their mind becomes dangerous in the best way. Dangerous to excuses. dangerous to procrastination, dangerous to mediocrity. Because that person cannot be easily shaken. That person understands something powerful. The mind is everything. What you think you become. Guard it. Train it. Command it. And never return to unconscious living. If this audiobook challenged you, strengthened you, or sharpened your thinking, then take action now. Support the channel. Like this video. Subscribe. Commit to continued growth. Surround your mind with discipline consistently. Do not consume randomly. Train intentionally. Your life will reflect the quality of your thinking. Raise it. Stand firm. And become unshakable.